Chapter 239. As far as Old Master Lu and Old Madam Lu were concerned, Lu Tingxiao had already achieved the glorious achievement of every member of the Lu family is assisting. In the car, seeing Lu Tingxiao walking towards the car after saying goodbye to his parents and Xiao Bao, Ningxi hurriedly sat upright and pretended not to hear anything. On the way back, Lu Tingxiao suddenly asked, "What are you going to do today?" "Today?" Ningxi was dumbfounded. Oh right, she didn't have to accompany Xiao Bao today, and it was Saturday, so Lu Tingxiao didn't have to work. Wouldn't that mean that she would have to spend the entire day with him, a man and a woman, alone or at home? Ningxi, who found that she had fallen into a trap, was stunned. Every step he took was a pit, and he would fall into it if he wasn't careful. At this moment, her cell phone rang. Ningxi glanced at her phone and narrowed her eyes. Chang Li? Why did she call? Ningxi picked up the phone and said in a surprised tone, "Hey, Manager Chang, you're so busy every day that you have time to call me in person?" When Chang Li heard the words busy, she was so angry that she almost bit her gums. In the past, Ning Xueluo was like the sun in the sky, so she was naturally very busy every day. However, since this incident, the number of movies and TV shows that Ning Xueluo was endorsing had all plummeted. Not only that, many of the companies that she had previously signed with had asked for compensation. Starlight also asked Ning Xueluo to keep a low profile for a period of time until this incident was over. Other than Ning Xueluo, none of her subordinates were successful. This meant that she would have to starve for the next 6 months. Chang Li snapped, "I'm here to inform you to move out immediately." He had already broken his promise to terminate the contract with the company. Did he still want to occupy the company's property? Even if that area is rented out, it would cost at least 1,000 yuan a month. In a place like the imperial capital, the monthly rent was only a little more than 1,000. Was it worth showing off? She didn't have the time to talk nonsense with her. She said casually, "Got it. If there's nothing else, I'll hang up." Before she hung up the phone, Chang Li began to criticize her aggressively. "Ningxi, ask yourself. Hasn't the company treated you well enough? Which company would arrange accommodation for an unknown newcomer these days? How many small-time artists can't get a job for months? At least you always have a job. The company was prepared to support you. Even if something like that happened to you, the company didn't give up on you. You, on the other hand, forget your roots, climb to a higher branch, and then trample on the company." Ningxi tutted. "Agent Chang, you're getting better at distorting the truth. If you're so reasonable, why don't you go on the internet to reason things out?" Chang Li was immediately choked. She had indeed gone online to say these things, but the result was that she was scolded badly by the netizens. Chang Li snorted unwillingly and sneered, "Shengshi Entertainment is filled with big shots, and the competition is even fiercer than Starlight. Do you think you can make a name for yourself by jumping ship? What a joke. He's just a pawn used by Golden Era to attack Starlight. Do you really think that Golden Era thinks highly of you? Don't come crying to me when the time comes." After that, he hung up the phone with a loud bang. Ningxi shrugged and took a look at Lu Tingxiao beside her. "Now we have something to do today." "What?" "Just now, Chang Li called and said that the house Xinghui arranged for me is going to be taken back. My things are still there. So, I have to move." Chapter 240. "Okay, let's go." Lu Tingxiao nodded and drove towards her apartment. She thought she had dodged a bullet. Seeing this, she said anxiously, "I'll go by myself. I have a lot of things. I'll call a moving company for a truck. It doesn't matter. It can fit." She thought to herself that although his car was spacious, how could it fit so many things? Did he think he was Doraemon? But Lu Tingxiao looked so confident that she couldn't refute him. She could only let him drive all the way to the apartment. Forget it. It was safer for them to move together. At least it had nothing to do with the ambiguous atmosphere. When they arrived at the apartment, She pushed open the door. The room was covered with a layer of dust because it had been vacant for a long time. The window had been blown open and leaves had fallen on the ground. A cool autumn breeze blew in through the window. Lu Tingxiao's slender figure stood in the hallway. His cold eyes slowly swept over every corner of the room with a hint of warmth. What's wrong? Ning Shi looked at him, puzzled. Nothing. Lu Tingxiao looked away. Although it was a small shabby house arranged by Xing Hui for her, it contained their precious memories. Well, she would ask someone to buy the house later. What do you need me to do? Lu Tingxiao asked. Ning Shi scratched her head, found a large empty box, and pointed to a row of tall bookshelves. You're tall. Can you help me put the books on the bookshelves? Okay. Lu Tingxiao rolled up his sleeves and was about to start. Ning Shi looked at his clothes, which were more expensive than this apartment. She touched her forehead and said hurriedly, wait a minute. Then she took out a doctor's white coat and stood in front of him. Take off your coat and put on this. It's dust-proof. Lu Tingxiao took off his coat and looked at the white coat in surprise. Where did you get it? The costume. A crew was so poor that they couldn't even afford the costume for the extras, so I bought one for myself. Ning Shi said and put it on him. Fortunately, it's loose. After he finished speaking, he saw that Lu Tingxiao was stunned. He involuntarily swallowed his saliva and couldn't hide the surprise on his face. Lu Tingxiao looked so cool in a white coat. This was simply the temptation of a uniform. Damn it, even moving house isn't safe. What happened? Ning Shi shook her head violently and came to her senses. It's okay. Let's start. I'm going to tidy up my clothes. Yes. Lu Tingxiao nodded. He looked at the girls fleeing back and began to tidy up the books on the shelf. Lu Tingxiao seemed to be doing things slowly, but in fact, he was very fast and efficient. After a while, he was almost done with his work. As he continued to move, a photo accidentally fell out of a Shakespeare anthology. Lu Tingxiao casually picked it up. In the photo was a group of young people, all dressed in punk and heavy metal outfits. Ning Shi was in the middle. His hair was extremely short, and he was wearing a black motorcycle suit. He had an unbridled smile on his face, and he looked like a handsome boy. Her arm was casually placed on a man's shoulder, and she was talking to him with her head turned. Her posture looked very intimate, and she should be someone very familiar with him. As for the man, because he was turning his head to light the lighter, and the light was dim, it was hard to see his face clearly. Only a blurry profile could be seen. Chapter 241. His intuition told him that this person was YS, who Ning Shi said knew he was dangerous, but still believed he would never hurt him. Lu Tingxiao stared at the man's profile for a long time. A thought flashed through his mind, but it flashed too quickly for him to grasp. Why did he feel that this person was somewhat familiar? Could it be someone he knew? Lu Tingxiao, I'm almost done here. Are you done? Ning Shi dragged a large suitcase and turned her head to ask. Well, it's done. Lu Tingxiao put the photo back without batting an eyelid. 10 minutes later, Ning Shi stood downstairs with many bags. Then, she finally understood why Lu Tingxiao was so sure that it could fit. A Lincoln limousine was quietly parked there. Hey, this inhumane world of the rich. Ning Shi quickly lowered the brim of her hat, carefully put everything in as fast as she could, and then hurriedly urged the driver to drive. Because it happened so suddenly, she didn't have time to dress up. If she was photographed, it would definitely be big news. Big Sister Gigi had instructed her to keep a low profile during this period of time, because she had already built up enough momentum. If she continued, it would be too much, and it would easily cause the public to dislike her. Lu Tingxiao seemed to see her worry and said, Don't worry, the reporters will recognize the license plate number. In other words, he would never dare to provoke the owner of this car. Ah, all right. She had worried too much. The Great Demon King always did things flawlessly. On the way to the new apartment, Lu Tingxiao suddenly called her, Ning Shi. Ning Shi, who was absent-mindedly thinking about something, suddenly raised her head. Ah? What's wrong? Lu Tingxiao propped up his forehead and looked at her deeply. I seem to remember you saying that if I want to pursue someone, you can teach me. Ning Shi's mind buzzed and she cursed under her breath. Then she laughed dryly and said, Did I say that? No way. He. I did. He even said that he was guaranteed to teach her. On the day we went to your apartment to get the seasoning, you picked up 2 packages. One of them was a birthday gift from your ex-boyfriend. You said that his way of coaxing girls was too clumsy and that I shouldn't learn it. Lu Tingxiao reminded her of all the details. When Ningxi heard this, she really wanted to slap herself. Who asked you to speak too fast? Who asked you to spout nonsense? He was digging his own grave. Then you have a girl you want to chase now? Ningxi could only bite the bullet and ask. Yes. Lu Tingxiao nodded. His starry eyes looked at her as if he was looking at the whole world. So, teach me. Motherfucker. What the hell was she going to teach? As long as you look at any girl with that kind of gaze, they will scream and pounce on you. What was there to chase? He had no choice. He had to take back what he had said even if he cried. Ningxi could only cough lightly and put on an expression of ignorance. There's a popular saying on the internet. If she's inexperienced, take her to see the prosperity of the world. If her heart is full of vicissitudes, take her to ride the merry-go-round. The main idea was that they had to find the right medicine. What type of girl do you like? She. Lu Tingxiao paused as if he was thinking. After a long while, his cold eyes seemed to melt like ice and snow, and a trace of gentleness appeared at the corner of his mouth. She knows the ways of the world, but not the ways of the world. She is wild and unruly, but kind and gentle. She has experienced a lot, but she has always maintained a pure heart. She is the best girl I have ever seen. Chapter 242. Knowing the ways of the world but not knowing them, unruly but kind and gentle, experienced a lot but still maintained a pure and innocent heart, the best girl, oh my young heart. Ningxi clutched her chest. Her heart was beating so fast that she almost collapsed. Who didn't like being praised? Moreover, Lu Tingxiao's compliment was so sincere and skillful. Every word poked at the softest part of her heart. Wasn't Lu Tingxiao supposed to be an aloof person who didn't care about worldly affairs? It didn't make sense for him to be so sweet. She looked at the devil who was still waiting for her to make a move. Ningxi really wanted to kneel down and kowtow to him 3 times to beg him to let her go. You're full of godly equipment. Do you still need me to carry you? Ningxi coughed lightly, speaking with a tone of an experienced person. Sir boss, forgive me for being blunt, but with your internal and external conditions and perception, you don't need me to teach you at all. If she isn't tempted by you, there's only one possibility. Lu Tingxiao put down his hand that was supporting his forehead and narrowed his eyes. What possibility? Ningxi took a deep breath and said resolutely, you're not her type. He's not her type. Along with these words came a gust of cold wind from the Arctic glacier. Ningxi swallowed her saliva, forced herself to bear the Demon King's sharp eyes, and nodded affirmatively. Yes, as the saying goes, everyone has their own preferences. Those who like carrots, no matter how perfect the vegetables are, will never like the vegetables. Lu Tingxiao tapped his fingers on the armrest. After 3 seconds of silence, he said faintly, what if I'm sure I'm a carrot? Ningxi. Holy shit. What do you mean you're a carrot? Are you so sure that I like you? Can you not be so quick-witted, then? Then maybe she already has another radish she likes. Every carrot has its own pit. Since there's already a carrot, there's no room for other carrot. Ningxi's lips twitched at her own analogy. Why did she use such a weird analogy like carrot for no reason? Other carrots that she likes. Lu Tingxiao pondered and then his gaze sharpened. Who? At this moment, the cold wind had evolved into a tornado. Ningxi, who was in the center of the storm, felt that she couldn't hold on any longer. She pretended to look at the scenery and tried to move to the window. She smiled dryly and said, I don't know how to read fortunes. How would I know? In any case, I think it's safer for you to maintain the status quo. Otherwise, if the other party really has someone he likes, you can't even be friends anymore. Lu Tingxiao's thin lips were tightly pursed and his face was as cold as frost. He didn't say anything for a long time. The air pressure in the closed compartment was so low that it was as if hail was about to fall. Just when Ningxi was about to be suffocated by such an atmosphere, Lu Tingxiao finally spoke. He said, then, pull out that radish. Ningxi, pull that radish. Big brother, do you need to use such frightening words? Originally, he wanted to find a shield, but which shield could withstand a blow from the great Demon King? It wasn't even enough to fill the gaps between his teeth. Oh no, communication failed again. Could it be that she could only use her ultimate move? Hopefully, I won't have to use that move. Chapter 243. Ningxi's new apartment was on the 7th floor of Pearl River Imperial View. It had 3 bedrooms and 1 living room. The decoration was simple and comfortable, and behind the balcony was a beautiful view of the river. It was a world of difference from her old apartment. She, Lu Tingxiao, and the chauffeur took 3 trips to move everything up. Looking at the clutter in the room, Ningxi wiped her sweat. There's one last bag. I'll go down and get it. Lu Tingxiao nodded. Okay, I'll help you sort it out. Wait, I forgot something. Ningxi took out a long black gift box from one of the boxes. What's this? Lu Tingxiao asked. Ningxi smiled mysteriously. Use it to coax girls. Downstairs. Ningxi finally took the last bag. When she entered the lobby, she saw the girl at the front desk looking at her curiously. Meeting her gaze, she immediately lowered her head and pretended to be busy. The receptionist at Pearl River Imperial View had seen too many big stars and was already used to it. But Ningxi had been very popular recently, and she was a little surprised to see her suddenly, not to mention that she had come with a very handsome and very mysterious man today. Ningxi gracefully smiled at the little girl and then walked towards her. The receptionist was a little surprised to see her walking towards her, and then she boldly asked, "Are you Ningxi?" Ningxi nodded. "Yes, I just moved in today." She then took out the black gift box and handed it to her. "This is a small gift for our first meeting. Please take care of me in the future." "Ah, this. I can't accept this. It's okay. It's a gift from someone. It's free. Just take it. Your lips are so beautiful. It must look good on you." The girl touched her lips and blushed. Then, thank you. You're welcome." After Ningxi walked away, the girl immediately opened the box and looked at it. Then she looked pleasantly surprised. There were 12 lipsticks in a whole set of different colors. Oh my god. She liked this brand of lipstick very much, but she couldn't afford it. Her boyfriend was also a blockhead and always gave her strange things. Damn it, couldn't he give her a lipstick? She hadn't expected Ningxi to be so nice. Although there were many big stars who gave her gifts, they were all arrogant and gave her gifts as if they didn't want them. Unlike Ningxi, who could make people so happy when she gave them gift. Obviously, it was specially prepared. Most people looked down on her staff, but they didn't know that she knew a lot of secrets. At the elevator door. With a ding sound, the elevator door opened. Outside the elevator, Ningxi raised her eyebrows when she saw the person in the elevator. She didn't expect to meet Chang Li so coincidentally. Ningxi. At this time, Chang Li was staring at her in surprise, as if guarding against a thief. "What are you doing here? Does this belong to your house?" Ningxi rolled her eyes. "You are the only one." Chang Li crossed her arms in front of her chest and looked at her dirty clothes with disdain. Although it's not my house, it's not a place for people like you to come." Ningxi walked past her, entered the elevator, and pressed the close button. "I'm sorry, I live here." When Chang Li heard this, she stood there in a daze. She looked at the elevator as it closed and went up. Chapter 244. Ningxi lived here? How was that possible? But she had to swipe a card to enter and exit the estate. How did she get in? Chang Li mumbled to herself as she walked, and finally, she couldn't help but go to the front desk to ask. "Xiao Fang, the girl who just went in, is Ningxi? Is she a resident here?" Chang Li asked. Xiao Fang said politely, "Miss Chang, this is the privacy of the resident. We can't reveal it. You know how strict we are." Chang Li stuffed a shopping card into her hand without batting an eyelid. "Sister, do me a favor. I just want to know if she lives here. It's not a sensitive question. It won't affect you." Xiao Fang glanced at the shopping card disdainfully. "You usually order me around, but now that you have something to ask of me, you finally know how to be nice." He wanted to push it back, but changed his mind. He took the card and said, "Yes, she lives here. She registered her information about half a month ago." Chang Li's eyes lit up. Who's the owner? Xiao Fang knew what she was thinking from her expression. He told her the truth. It's registered under the name of Shungsha Entertainment. The company must have arranged the accommodation for her. Chang Li was dumbfounded. What? Are you sure? She had thought that she could catch Ningxi's weakness. Xiao Fang said confidently, how could I be wrong? That suite is in the best position in the entire Pearl River Imperial View. It faces the Pearl River and has a great view. It was empty until half a month ago, when the staff of Shungsha Entertainment came to renovate the suite. Her information is on the property management information form. I see. Thank you. Chang Li hurried out with a dark face. Damn it, was Shungsha Entertainment crazy? How could they give Ningxi, a newcomer, such good treatment? She recalled what she had said to Ningxi not long ago. She had said how good the dormitory Xinghui had arranged for her was. A slap to her own face. It seemed that she had to keep a close eye on Ningxi. She had to find out who was behind this bitch. With Lu Tingxiao's help, Ningxi finished what should have taken her a whole day in half a day. Seeing everything being tidied up neatly, her mood became better. Ever since she entered Golden Era, she had always felt that it was unreal. Now that she was looking at her future home, she finally felt that it was real. Ningxi took a new towel to wipe Lu Tingxiao's sweat and thanked him. Thank you for your hard work today. Let me treat you to a meal. In any case, Lu Tingxiao had been busy the whole day helping her move. It was necessary to at least treat him to a meal. Can you eat at home? Lu Tingxiao asked. Ningxi scratched her head. But the stove hasn't been turned on yet. There's nothing there. I'm afraid I can't cook. It's okay. You don't have to do anything. I'm already very tired today. Lu Tingxiao made a phone call and said 2 words to the person on the other end of the phone, come in. The next second, the doorbell rang. Ningxi opened the door suspiciously and was startled. 2 rows of people stood in an orderly manner outside the door, all of them wearing the same uniform and carrying all kinds of delicacies in their hands. The young man standing at the front was holding a large bouquet of fresh lilies. Lu Tingxiao walked over with strong steps and took the flowers from the young man's hands. He turned around and presented them to her. This is for you. Chapter 245. Ningxi blinked her eyes blankly at the large bouquet of white lilies and reflexively took it. Then, the waiters filed in, laid out the tablecloth and placed the candlesticks. In just 5 minutes, an exquisite candlelit dinner was laid out. Then, they bowed and left in a well-trained manner. So, this was the meaning of whether Lu Tingxiao could eat at home. She thought he was going to cook at home. How naive. Just now, she saw the words Red Restaurant engraved on the waiters' uniforms. Red Restaurant was the most famous private restaurant in B City's aristocratic circle. There was only 1 table every day, and the number of people who ordered had already been queuing until next year. This restaurant also had a rule that they didn't accept orders. You had to eat whatever they made. Such a capricious restaurant, and Lu Tingxiao actually let them deliver food. Ningxi looked at the flowers and then at the candlelit dinner. This is clearly the standard for a confession. Ningxi whispered in horror. Lu Tingxiao deliberately sent Xiaobao away today and arranged all this in advance. He even asked her how to woo a girl. Was he really going to? The more she thought about it, the more panicked she became. The next second, her gaze landed on the dessert on the small shelf next to the table. Oh, could there be a proposal ring hidden in the cake? Cough cough cough. No way, no way. With Lu Tingxiao's personality, how could he have guessed it so easily? You don't like the dishes? Lu Tingxiao frowned and picked up his phone. I'll ask them to leave and serve again. Ningxi hurriedly waved her hand. No need, no need. It's all my favorite food. What I mean is, I should be the one treating you. Why are you treating me instead? Same. Lu Tingxiao said casually, then pulled out a chair for her like a gentleman. Thank you. Ningxi had to sit down. She took a closer look at Lu Tingxiao and noticed a detail. Logically speaking, today was his rest day, so he should be wearing casual clothes. But today, he was dressed very formally and for the first time, wore a bow tie. After sitting down, Ningxi realized that she was absent-minded and forgot to hold the flowers in her arms. So she hurriedly found a vase and put them in. "Do you like it?" Lu Tingxiao asked. "What?" Ningxi was stunned. "Lily. I quite like it. Well, I think lily suits you better." Ningxi, was he referring to the meaning of purity, or was he referring to the meaning of harmony for 100 years? "Eat." Lu Tingxiao picked up some food for her with his chopsticks. "Well, I'll do it myself." In order to cover up her nervousness, Ningxi began to bury herself in eating. When her stomach started to fill up, she finally realized that something was wrong. She held the half-eaten cake in her hand and looked at the man opposite her with a frown. Lu Tingxiao didn't eat much. Instead, he opened a bottle of wine and drank by himself. Moreover, the bottle was almost empty. "Lu Tingxiao, why are you only drinking? Why are you drinking so much? I didn't even see you eat anything." Fut. When Ningxi spoke, she still had a piece of cake in her mouth. As she spoke, she suddenly felt that she had bitten something hard. She hurriedly opened her mouth and spat it out. "Damn, what the hell is this? My teeth are numb." Ding dong, a shiny ring fell onto the white porcelain plate in front of her. Chapter 246. Ningxi stared at the ring on the plate with her eyes wide open like a light bulb. She was completely stunned. "Damn. Ning-shi. You. This. Crow. Mouth." She actually hit the nail on the head. She had been on guard against it. She had always thought that the devil's way of picking up girls would be amazing and impossible to guard against. She had never expected that she would be caught in such an old-fashioned way. However, the final result was the same. It was still impossible to guard against. Was the great demon king doing the opposite on purpose? At this moment, what Ningxi regretted the most was that she hadn't swallowed the ring and destroyed the evidence. Under Ningxi's dull gaze, Lu Tingxiao drank up the last mouthful of wine in his glass, put down the glass, and looked at her with his deep eyes. "I kept drinking because I was nervous." Ningxi. He was nervous. Who was the one who should be nervous? The coldness on Lu Tingxiao's face turned into a tipsy mist, but his dark eyes were clear. His cold voice was like raindrops falling into a cold pond. "I never do things that I'm not sure about, but this time, I still did it. This may be the most impulsive thing I've ever done in my life. But I had no choice and no room for regret. Now, whether I advance or retreat, you've decided to stay away from me. It's just a matter of time. From the first day I met you, I've been planning this day. I've made countless plans. But you're more and more afraid of me. For you now, those plans can only scare you, so I chose the most traditional and gentle way." When Ningxi heard the last sentence, she was speechless. "The most gentle way. Thank you for being so considerate, but I was still scared to the point of peeing." Lu Tingxiao paused, then raised his head and continued, "No matter which way I choose, I'm not confident that I can move you completely. Today's plan is the safest way I can think of, but the probability of success is only 17%. Ningxi, huh? What the hell was 17%? How in the world did he come up with this magical number? Cough cough cough. That, out of her wits, Ningxi subconsciously reached for the wine, only to find that it had been drunk by Lu Tingxiao, so she poured herself a glass of juice and gulped it down. After putting down the cup with a bang, Ningxi finally found her voice. "Lu Tingxiao, are you practicing how to confess to the girl you like?" It's pretty good, pretty good. It's traditional yet classic, low-key yet doesn't lose its meaning, and the lines are sensational." Lu Tingxiao looked at the girl in front of him quietly. He pulled his chair back slightly and stood up. His long arm reached across the dining table and pinched her chin with his fingers. In the next second, he leaned forward and kissed her on the lips. Ningxi's voice stopped abruptly. 3 seconds later, before she could react, Lu Tingxiao pressed the back of her head and kissed her even more deeply. The room was so quiet that one could hear a pin drop. There was only the sound of rapid breathing, the slight friction between their clothes, and the sound of their tongues intertwining. The temperature in the air quietly rose. After a long time, the kiss finally ended. Lu Tingxiao slowly left her lips, but his broad palm was still on the back of her neck, and his forehead was gently pressed against hers. Chapter 247. Ning she closed her eyes, her eyelashes trembling, her voice a little hoarse. Lu Tingxiao, why don't you listen to me? Not long ago, she had just taught him to maintain the status quo and not to act rashly. In the end, he just turned around and directly proposed to her. What a trap. Teacher leads the way, cultivation depends on oneself. Lu Tingxiao's tone was actually very reasonable. Teacher never taught you to be a hooligan, but this is the only way to let you know that the person I like is teacher. Then you're offending your superior. That must be because teacher is too cute. Lu Tingxiao pressed his forehead against hers, his large palm holding her slender fingers over his heart. His cold eyes at this moment were like a volcano at this moment, his tone was like a bewitching spell. Teacher, be with me, everything I have is yours, stop talking. Ningxi's mind was in a mess, especially when he called her teacher. There was a strange sense of shame. She tried to cover her ears, but it was still a step too late. Lu Tingxiao continued, Xiaobao is also yours. Ningxi's pupils suddenly contracted. Lu Tingxiao quietly observed her reaction. Seeing that she was staring at him with her eyes wide open, the corners of his mouth slightly curved up. His palm was like playing with a cat, gently pinching the sensitive tender flesh on the back of her neck. What's the percentage now? Ningxi covered her face and subconsciously answered, half and half. The moment she finished speaking, she couldn't wait to bite off her tongue. Damn. Lu Tingxiao, you're too shameless. You even used Xiaobao. Xiaobao is my natural advantage, how can you say it's used? Then what about you using your beauty on me? Ningxi was filled with righteous indignation. She wanted to get rid of this position where she was completely under his control, but Lu Tingxiao clearly didn't use any force to hurt her, but no matter how she struggled, she couldn't get rid of him. I used it. Lu Tingxiao said innocently. Fine, you're useless, I'm a lecher. Lu Tingxiao. Ningxi was in the midst of her anger when she suddenly felt that something was wrong. Ningxi paled as she held her stomach. My stomach hurts. What? Where does it hurt? Lu Tingxiao's expression immediately became serious. Stomach. I can't take it anymore. It's getting more and more painful. Ningxi's forehead was sweating. What's going on? Why did he suddenly have a stomachache? Is there something wrong with the dish? Ningxi coughed lightly. Well, I don't think so. I think, maybe I'm bloated. I felt something wrong with my stomach when I drank a large glass of orange juice. Only then did Lu Tingxiao realize that she had almost finished all the dishes on the table, not to mention that she had drunk such a large glass of juice. He said angrily, Ningxi, are you an idiot? Don't you feel bloated after eating so much? Ningxi was even angrier than him. It's all because of you. I was so scared by you that I kept eating to calm myself down. You even drank all the wine by yourself and didn't leave a drop for me. I can only drink orange juice. How dare you scold me? After saying that, he clutched his stomach and howled even more miserably. Lu Tingxiao immediately calmed down and comforted her. It's my fault. I'll send you to the hospital right away. Chapter 248. Ningxi looked embarrassed. I don't think so. It's so embarrassing to go to the hospital in the middle of the night because you ate too much. Is your reputation more important than your health? Lu Tingxiao took out his wallet and cell phone and quickly picked her up by her waist. Ningxi immediately waved her hand. Lu Tingxiao, no, change positions. You'd better help me walk slowly. This position is more uncomfortable. Lu Tingxiao was angry and distressed. He could only put her down and help her walk out carefully. When they arrived at the emergency room, Ningxi's clothes and hair were all wet with sweat. In addition, Ningxi had been covering her belly and Lu Tingxiao looked as if the sky was about to collapse. A nurse immediately came up to help Ningxi. Are you going to give birth? Hurry. Get on the trolley. Ningxi pulled up her mask to avoid being recognized. She then explained with a frown, No, sister nurse. I'm too full. The nurse was speechless for a second. She looked down at her belly and found that it was only slightly protruding. She didn't look like a pregnant woman at all. Please go to the left for gastric problems. Thank you. In the middle of the night, Ningxi's diagnosis finally came out after a lot of trouble. Acute gastritis caused by overeating and stress in a short period of time. Lu Tingxiao touched the girl's pale cheek on the hospital bed, his face full of heartache. Does it still hurt? Ningxi nodded bitterly. It hurts, but it's a little better than before. Lu Tingxiao, there's something else. What is it? Tell me. Ningxi hesitated for a moment and said awkwardly, my gums seem to have been scratched by the ring. I didn't feel it just now, but it hurts so much now. Lu Tingxiao touched his forehead and ruffled her hair, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Wait for me. I'll buy some medicine for you. Okay. After Lu Tingxiao left, Ningxi let out a long sigh of relief, and then touched her own round belly. She didn't expect her stomach to be so strong at such a critical moment. But the feeling of being full was really uncomfortable. She didn't want to experience it a second time in her life. There was a period of time when she was too busy and did not eat on time for a long period of time. In the end, there was a time when she suddenly had acute gastritis in the middle of the night. The only difference was that at that time, she couldn't get a cab in the middle of the night, so she rode her motorcycle all the way to the hospital. She registered herself, got her medicine, and sat on the cold bench in the corridor to get an 4 drip. Lu Tingxiao soon returned. He took the medicine and sat down on the edge of the bed. Then, he opened the bottle and said with a serious expression, this pill is for external application. Open your mouth and I'll stick it on your wound. Ningxi obediently opened her mouth, accidentally touched her tongue, and then she frowned. Bitter, bear with it for a while. Don't touch it. Oh. After applying the medicine on her wound, Lu Tingxiao looked at her tenderly and murmured softly, teacher. Ningxi was taken aback. It took her a while to realize that he was calling her. Ah, I'm sorry. Lu Tingxiao sighed in self-reproach, then picked up her hand and gently kissed the back of her hand. It's all my fault for not being skilled enough to let you get hurt. Ningxi's heart skipped a beat. Oh no. 60%. 61%. 62%. 63%. It's still increasing. Thump thump thump. How was it not skilled enough? He was clearly a top student. Chapter 249. Ningxi shook her head and quickly ended the dangerous and ambiguous topic of teacher and student. Then she switched to the status of a small employee, raised her hand and said seriously, Boss, I would like to apply for a period of time without interference. Lu Tingxiao thought for a while and agreed readily. That's approved. How many days do you need? Ningxi looked at her fingers and asked weakly, well, can it be a year? I'll give you 7 days. Lu Tingxiao ignored her unreasonable request and made the decision. Okay, 7 days it is. Can I stay in the apartment for the time being after I leave the hospital tomorrow? You just promised me no interference. Xiaobao is not at home these days and I have to go to the company the day after tomorrow. It's better to stay in the apartment. Ningxi tried to explain the reason. Okay. Lu Tingxiao nodded without hesitation. Wow, so easy to persuade. She was not used to it when he suddenly stopped teasing her. Ningxi narrowed her eyes and showed a sly expression. She seemed to have found the most effective way to deal with the devil. The trick of injuring oneself to gain sympathy. Was it because the doctor told her not to be too stressed? Sigh, it was because she cared so much that the trick of injuring oneself to gain sympathy was so effective. Thinking of this, the value in her heart suddenly rose to 80%. The next day. Fortunately, Ningxi's condition was not serious and she was discharged from the hospital in the morning. Lu Tingxiao sent her to the apartment as promised. On the way, he went to the supermarket and helped her fill up the fridge. He also ordered takeout for her 3 meals a day and repeatedly reminded her of the recent food precautions. Sitting on the sofa, Ningxi saw Lu Tingxiao busy checking the fridge and still standing there to see if he had missed anything. She couldn't help but cough lightly. Lu Tingxiao, don't bother. I can take care of myself. Lu Tingxiao turned and walked to her. I'm leaving. Although he said that, he still looked worried as if she were a 3-year-old who could not take care of herself at all. Ningxi tried to calm down. Okay. Is there really nothing wrong with your body? No, my stomach doesn't hurt at all. My body recovers very quickly. Well, that's good. Lu Tingxiao's eyes darkened and he nodded with satisfaction. Ningxi. There was nothing wrong with what he said, but why did she feel like she was being teased? While she was lost in thought, Lu Tingxiao suddenly leaned toward her, but before he could get close, he straightened up and retreated. He reached out and rubbed her head. I won't disturb you. Ningxi, you. Already. Sutra. Fuck. Disturb. Yes. She finally understood that even if this guy didn't do anything, just his existence alone was a kind of interference. After seeing Lu Tingxiao off, Ningxi finally relaxed completely. Hugging a pillow, she lay on the sofa in a daze, recalling everything that happened these days. In the end, things still came to this. Although he had a premonition and was prepared, when it really came to this, his mind still went blank and he was completely flustered. She gave herself 0 points for this performance. In fact, her initial plan was to say some decisive words to make Lu Tingxiao give up. However, when she looked at that face, she couldn't say a single word. Instead, her resolute heart began to waver. She was slowly considering changing what she thought was impossible. No wonder there were so many incapable rulers in ancient times. Her beauty was truly misleading. Chapter 250. The next morning, in Lin Jiji's office at Shengsha Entertainment. Sister Jiji, I'm not late, am I? Ningxi had rested in the apartment for a whole day yesterday, and her body had almost recovered, but she still looked a little haggard. For this reason, she was wearing a bold and fashionable dress today, which brightened her skin and made her look youthful and energetic. In front of the desk, Lin Jiji was working on some documents with her hair in a bun as usual. She looked at Ningxi and then raised her head. Don't be nervous. I don't have anything important to tell you today. I just want to show you around the company before we start filming tomorrow. Although you don't spend much time in the company, you still need to know the basic structure of the company. Okay, thank you, Sister Jiji. Let's go. Ningxi nodded and followed her. Under Lin Jiji's guidance, she learned about the various departments of the company and got to know the new colleagues. No matter what they thought, they were all polite to her on the surface. Even if they had a tacit understanding that this was a game between Shengsha and Starlight, and Ningxi was just a way for Shengsha to attack Starlight, it was also an indisputable fact that Shengsha was going to promote Ningxi. No one would look for trouble when Ningxi was in the limelight. TSK, this Ningxi is even more beautiful than in the photos. No wonder second young master likes her so much. I have a feeling that as long as her EQ is not too low, she will definitely be popular in the future. That's not necessarily true. Lung Manyun is finally gone. Do you think anyone can tolerate her popularity? Besides, can she get along with Lin Jiji? Doesn't Lin Jiji hate those who use their beauty to get to the top? The company was quite large. Ningxi followed Lin Jiji for more than an hour before they finished the tour. When they were about to go to some of the filming sites and recording studios, they bumped into someone in the corridor. Hey, isn't this our manager Lin? You finally came out. I thought you were ready to retire from the industry. The woman who spoke was in her 30s. She was dressed in sexy and fashionable clothes, with wavy hair and delicate makeup. She looked even prettier than a celebrity. She often appeared in newspapers and magazines, and Ningxi had seen her from afar several times during filming, so she immediately recognized her as Zhao Meishin. Facing Zhao Meishin's provocative words, Lin Jiji didn't even frown. She said expressionlessly, Sister Meishin, you are still working hard, and we can't fall behind you. You. Zhao Meishin was furious. Ningxi tried hard not to laugh. She thought that Lin Jiji looked old-fashioned and serious, but she didn't expect that she had such a sharp tongue. Zhao Meishin clenched her teeth and coldly snorted, Lin Jiji, although I didn't think highly of you in the past, I have no choice but to admit that you do have some ability. You were able to raise Lung Manyun's mediocre looks to such a height, but now, speaking of this, Zhao Meishin deliberately paused and glanced at Ningxi with a mean and disdainful look. After Lung Manyun left, you found such a good-for-nothing vase except scandals and a pretty face. I remember you hate artists who rely on their looks the most. Why? Have you fallen too? Chapter 251. Ning, she narrowed her eyes when she heard this. This wasn't the first time she had heard from others that Lin Jiji hated artists like her. It was impossible to say that she didn't care about it at all. After all, she was going to fight with her in the future. If they didn't agree with each other from the start, how could they continue working together? Lin Jiji naturally noticed the flash of worry in Ning Xi's eyes. She looked at Zhao Meishan and said unhurriedly, "Sister Meishan seems to have some misunderstanding about me. As everyone knows, in this industry, being good-looking is a gift from God. It's something that others can't even dream of. Why should I hate it? What I hate is a vase that has nothing but looks but no substance. Everyone loves beauty. I think Sister Meishan, you should be able to understand this, right?" Zhao Meishan's expression changed when she heard the last sentence. What did she mean by she could understand? She was clearly mocking her. She was originally an actress, but because she wasn't good-looking enough, she switched to being a manager. She paid attention to her image and often went for beauty treatments and microsurgery. Damn Lin Jiji. She didn't usually speak, but every time she did, she would stab at her. A dog that bites doesn't bark. You're so sure that she's not a vase? Zhao Meishan sneered. Yes or no, let the work speak for itself. Sister Meishan can't judge based on appearance. Lin Jiji walked past her and left. You. Zhao Meishan stomped her feet in anger. After a short confrontation, Ning Xi's gloominess was swept away and she skipped happily behind Lin Jiji. Sister Jiji, you were so handsome just now. It gave me a sense of security, but don't worry, I'm definitely not a vase. Even if I'm a vase, it's at least a blue and white porcelain from the Qing dynasty. Beauty and capability coexist. Lin Jiji glanced at her and curled her lips slightly. It's not enough to just talk. The filming crew will start tomorrow. I'll accompany you then. Besides, it's not just me. The filming crew has also opened up for media visits. There will be a lot of reporters. I've already sent you the latest script and shooting plan. You should know that you have an important scene that day. It's a test of your acting skills. This is your first battle, so you must prepare well. In fact, during this period of time, she had studied Ning Xi's resume and some of her works, and found that this girl's acting skills were really good. She just had to wait for tomorrow's scene. Got it? I'll do my best. As Ning Xi spoke, she secretly sized up Lin Jiji, who seemed reliable no matter how she looked at it. The more she thought about it, the more regretful she felt. How could a woman like Sister Jiji fall for that unreliable golden retriever Jiang Mui? Because Lin Jiji had other things to do, Xiao Dao stayed with Ning Xi. Xiao Dao had a lively personality. She talked non-stop along the way, and Ning Xi heard a lot of gossip about the company from her. Sigh, now that Sister Manyun is gone, Su Yimo and Zhao Meishan will be the happiest. Now, they have no more competitors. Although Su Yimo was more famous than Sister Manyun, what did she act in? They were all rubbish commercial films. Although Sister Manyun's films were mostly artistic films, she had won so many international awards. Her status was simply crushing hers, alright? There was no other way. Who asked her to have such a strong backing? You're obviously not strong enough, but you're still shamelessly occupying the position of the #1 sister of the Golden Age. Is Su Yimo's backing very strong? Ning Xi asked. Of course. Don't you know, Sister Xi? Xiao Dao looked surprised. Then, she moved closer to her ear and said mysteriously, Su Yimo's backing is our boss Lu. Chapter 252. Of course. Sis Xi, don't you know? Xiao Dao looked surprised. Then, she moved closer to her ear and said mysteriously, Su Yimo's backer is our boss Lu. Boss Lu? Lu Jingli? Ning Xi's first reaction was Lu Jingli. It was clear that Lu Jingli had no integrity in her heart. Xiao Dao shook her head fiercely and pointed up with her finger. She meant Lu Jingli's superior. This time, Ning Xi was a little surprised. She raised her eyebrows. Lu Tingxiao? Xiao Dao nodded like a chick pecking rice. Then, she looked around nervously. Keep your voice down, as long as you know what's going on. Ning Xi touched her chin. But why hasn't there been any news of such explosive gossip? Who would dare to pull out the big boss to create hype? So, only the people inside our company know about this. Xiao Dao explained. I see. Before Ningxi could ask for more details, Xiao Dao couldn't help but start gossiping. At first, Su Yimo was just a second or third tier person. There were many people more famous than her. In the end, I don't know how she hooked up with our big boss and gained his favor. All of a sudden, all of the company's resources were placed in front of her for her to choose from. She rose to the top like a rocket. The more Xiao Dao spoke, the angrier she became. She said indignantly, our sis Manyun worked hard for 10 years to get to where she is today, but she was suppressed by her. It's so unfair. Ningxi listened to Xiao Dao's story and knew that it must be true. She just didn't know what her relationship with Lu Tingxiao was. Although Xiao Dao didn't say it clearly, from her tone, it seemed like they had slept together. However, with Ningxi's understanding of Lu Tingxiao, she naturally wouldn't completely believe Xiao Dao's gossip. Xiao Dao, who was talking non-stop, suddenly realized that it was inappropriate for her to be so arrogant. She hurriedly comforted her. But sis Shi, your backer is also very powerful. Our second young master personally poached you. Although Xiao Dao said that, there was actually a hint of disappointment in her tone. She was originally Lung Manyun's assistant. This time, she was transferred to Ningxi's side with Lin Jiji. In the past, when she was with Lung Manyun, she was respected wherever she went. But compared to Lung Manyun, Ningxi was just a newcomer. As Ningxi's assistant, she couldn't help but feel a little unbalanced when she thought that she would have to bow down to Su Yimo's agent and assistant in the future. How could Ningxi not see the disappointment on Xiao Dao's face? However, Xiao Dao's reaction was understandable, so she didn't take it to heart. However, she couldn't just let Su Yimo's problem go. After all, this was a crucial 7 days for her, and any small detail could affect her decision. So Ningxi didn't waste time guessing. She directly took out her mobile phone and sent a WeChat message to Lu Tingxiao. What is your relationship with Su Yimo? At the same time, at the Lu group. In the conference room, Lu Tingxiao was in the middle of a meeting. Suddenly, his phone rang. Lu Tingxiao continued to listen to his subordinate's report while he casually opened it. Then, all of his subordinates in the room saw a scene that was rarely seen in 1,000 years. Their boss, who almost never smiled in the company, actually looked at his phone, and his brows slowly relaxed. Then, he let out a low laugh. Chapter 253. The meeting is adjourned. Lu Tingxiao walked out of the conference room with his phone. Ningxi was waiting for Lu Tingxiao's reply, but she didn't expect him to call her back directly, which startled her. Thus, Ningxi informed Xiao Dao and quickly found an empty corner to answer the phone. Hello, I saw your message. Lu Tingxiao sounded like he was in a good mood. Ningxi scratched the tiles on the wall with her nails. Oh. She didn't think much of it when she sent the message, but why did she feel that something was wrong now? Are you jealous? Lu Tingxiao's deep and hoarse voice came from the other end. Cough, cough, cough. Ningxi coughed violently and said angrily, who's jealous? I just thought it was necessary to understand the interpersonal relationships in the company, so I asked casually. Damn it. No wonder she felt that something was wrong. It really made people think that she was jealous. Since it's just a casual question, I refuse to answer, Lu Tingxiao said. Ningxi was dumbfounded. She had never thought that Lu Tingxiao would be so childish. What do I have to do to make you tell me? Lu Tingxiao said. Remember my question. Which question? Was she jealous? Actually, when he heard Xiao Dao's ambiguous speculations and heard her linking Lu Tingxiao with another woman, he indeed felt a little uncomfortable in his heart. But how could she admit it? Ningxi pursed her lips and said indifferently, if you don't want to answer, I'll just take it that you're having an affair with Su Yimo. Do you know that I can deduct your score from 0 to 0? Lu Tingxiao sighed and compromised. Don't worry, it's fine. You don't have to worry about her in the company. Then why do people say that you're Su Yimo's backer? Didn't you order people to give Su Yimo a lot of resources? Ningxi didn't understand. I'm your backer, Lu Tingxiao replied. Ningxi blushed and said seriously, speak properly. Don't flirt with her. Lu Tingxiao chuckled. Ha, don't laugh either. Lu Tingxiao finally stopped teasing her. He coughed lightly and replied, I did give the order, but I'm innocent. I gave the order because she saved Xiaobao's life. What? What happened to Xiaobao? Ningxi immediately asked nervously. Previously, in order to let Xiaobao interact with more people, I tried to send him to school. In the end, he lost control of his emotions and ran out. He was almost hit by a car that didn't dodge in time. Fortunately, another car suddenly rushed out and knocked that car away, saving Xiaobao's life. We found out that the person in the car was Su Yimo. She rushed over because she was drunk and accidentally saved Xiaobao. Ningxi was dumbfounded. Damn. I didn't know if Su Yimo or Xiaobao was lucky. So in order to repay him, you gave that order? She could understand why Lu Tingxiao wanted to repay her. Even if Su Yimo had saved Xiaobao by accident, she had still saved him. Yes. TSK, he really did save Xiaobao's life. Why didn't you marry me then? Lu Tingxiao's words instantly killed him. Do you think I'll devote myself to just anyone? Chapter 254. As if that wasn't enough, Lu Tingxiao mercilessly added, How many points do you have now? I can't tell you. Do you think I'm stupid? I'm hanging up. My assistant is still waiting for me. Ningxi quickly hung up. What a sad day. She really shouldn't have had any contact with Lu Tingxiao. On the other side, Lu Tingxiao had just called Ningxi. Before the smile on his face faded away, a big face suddenly came over and said in a resentful toned, Brother, tell me the truth, are you hiding something from me? Lu Tingxiao didn't deny it and raised his eyebrows. Is it obvious? Lu Jingli was so shocked that he almost rolled on the ground. Oh, you're hiding something from me. I'm your brother, your most capable assistant, your sweetheart. You're hiding something from me. Aren't you very good at guessing? Hey, I'm just guessing. Lu Jingli paced back and forth in the room. 3 minutes later, he suddenly stopped and looked at him. The day before yesterday, you deliberately sent Xiaobao away. At that time, there were only 2 days before Ningxi started work. In order to catch up, she would be very busy, which meant that you didn't have much time left. So, you must have done something big in these 2 days. Something big. Is it a confession? Lu Tingxiao said, Go on. It seemed that he had guessed correctly. Lu Jingli's eyes lit up and he continued to speculate. What about the result of the confession? It probably didn't work out. Otherwise, how could you still be in the company now? You must be in bed. Lu Tingxiao, finally, Lu Jingli snapped his fingers and came to a conclusion in a confident tone. There is only one truth. You confessed. Little 1111 didn't say yes, but she didn't reject you either. She's considering it, and the possibility of her giving you a positive answer is very high. That's why you're in such a good mood. Lu Tingxiao looked at his brother's spirited expression and there was an imperceptible softness in the corner of his mouth. He was cold by nature and was not good at getting along with other people. Even his relationship with his biological parents was very weak. Only this younger brother of his was avoided and feared by others. Only this younger brother of his was always around him. His face was always cold, but he never cared nor was he angry. He did not like to talk, so he could only guess his brother's thoughts. Moreover, he could accurately guess his brother's thoughts. He thought he was lucky enough. He didn't expect that he would meet Ningxi again. The next day. From midsummer to early autumn, the crew of Under the Heavens finally restarted filming after many twists and turns. Because of the change of the script, Ning Xueluo and Zhao Xizhou's scenes were cut a lot. Ning Xueluo and Ningxi originally had 3 scenes together, but now they were all deleted, which meant that Ningxi would not meet Ning Xueluo on the set in the following shooting process, which saved her a lot of trouble. She could finally concentrate on shooting. Today, they were going to shoot 2 important scenes between Ningxi and Jiang Mui. Not only did Ningxi's agent, Lin Jiji, come, but Jiang Mui's agent, Lei Yiming, also came in person. It could be seen how important these 2 scenes were. Ningxi and Jiang Mui arrived almost at the same time. Hello, Senior Marshal Brother Jiang tilde Ning. She greeted him sweetly and cleverly changed the way she addressed him from Senior Jiang to Senior Marshal Brother Jiang. Hello, Junior Sister. Looking at Ning Shi's obedient look, Jiang Mui shivered and got goosebumps. Then, he inadvertently glanced at Lin Jiji, who was standing beside Ning Shi. Chapter 255. Lin Jiji was talking to Lei Yiming and didn't notice Jiang Mui's gaze at all. Then she turned to Ning Shi and said, Ning Shi, I have something to discuss with Brother Ming. You and your senior brother have a good time. Okay, Sister Jiji. You can go now. After Ning Shi waved her hand and sent Lin Ji away, she immediately turned into a little devil. She stared at Jiang Mui and said, Tut tut, golden hair, did you see that just now? I felt sad for Sister Jiji for so long after I knew she was your ex-girlfriend. I was worried that she would be embarrassed when you two met, but she didn't even look at you. So cool. I like Sister Jiji more and more. Jiang Mui gnashed his teeth and glared at her. Who told you that she was my ex-girlfriend? Ning Shi blinked. Didn't you say it yourself? Get lost. I didn't say a word about it. You were the one who gossiped. It's your fault for being so easily misunderstood. Ning Shi complained. Then she became more curious. Since she's not your ex-girlfriend, what's your relationship? Why are you so afraid of her? When was I afraid of her? Ning Xiaoxi, can you stop thinking like that? Jiang Mui was about to break down. In order to get information out of him, Ning Shi softened her voice and comforted him. Okay, I won't think too much. Tell me. What's going on? What else could it be? It's just that she used to be my manager. Jiang Mui flipped through the script and said impatiently. Ning Shi's eyes widened in surprise. No way. Sister Jiji used to be your manager? She used to be your manager? Jiang Mui rolled his eyes at her. What's wrong? Can't I? What kind of expression was that? Ning Shi shook her head and sighed. She's even more pitiful than being your ex-girlfriend. Everyone in the industry knew how wild Jiang Mui was. None of his assistants worked for more than a week. Lei Yiming's agent hadn't been replaced for such a long time. Although Lei Yiming was burly and strong and looked a little fierce, he had a very good character and was very patient. That was why he could stay with Jiang Mui for so long. After knowing that Lin Jiji and Jiang Mui didn't have that kind of relationship, Ning Shi was relieved. Otherwise, this triangle relationship would be really awkward. At this time, Xiao Dao directed someone to move a super luxurious recliner over. Sister Shi, you can sit here. In the crew, this kind of reclining chair could only be enjoyed by one woman, one man, one woman, or those actors with high status. Ning Shi used to squat in the corner and sit on a small stool, or at most a chair. She didn't expect that one day she would have such a treatment. Thank you, Xiao Dao. Ning Shi thanked her. Although Xiao Dao had always felt that it was a pity that Leng Manyun had left the industry and wasn't too satisfied with her current assignment, she was still quite diligent when it came to work. Do you want to rehearse? Ning Shi raised the script and asked, resolutely carrying out her manager's order. Right my ass. I didn't sleep at all last night. I need to catch up on sleep. Don't disturb me, Jiang Mui said and covered his face with the script and fell asleep. Ning Shi silently lit a candle for Lei Yiming and then rejoiced for Lin Jiji. Fortunately, she had escaped from the abyss of suffering. Chapter 256. Jiang Mui kept his eyes closed even when he was putting on makeup. He slept until the shooting began. Director Guo had already asked everyone to get into position, but he was still sleeping. Ning Shi couldn't bear it anymore and kicked his chair. Only then did Jiang Mui slowly wake up. The scene they were going to shoot today was a fight scene on the battlefield. After Meng Changa's brother was killed by the incompetent concubine Xian, the little overlord grew up overnight. He put on armor and went to the battlefield, beginning a long military career. The general's mansion was in great changes, and Chang'an City was no longer the little overlord. After Meng Changa left, Sun Huanqing finally saw through his feelings. He followed Meng Changa to the battlefield and became a military doctor. Usually, the script was shot according to the setting and not according to the plot. Therefore, today's scene was directly skipped to 7 years later. Meng Chang'e had made great achievements in battle, even surpassing her father and brother. Under the instigation of the treacherous officials and concubine Xian, the incompetent emperor began to fear Meng Chang'e. He repeatedly asked her to hand over the military power and marry the incompetent 12th prince to restrain her. Meng Chang'e naturally refused to comply. So, in a war, she experienced the same experience as her brother. She was not defeated by the enemy, but was trapped by her own people. The enemy was in front of them, but they didn't have enough food and fodder, and the reinforcements didn't come. They were in a desperate situation. Finally, it was the last battle of life and death. On the set, all the staff were in position, and so were the visiting reporters. The most nervous one was director Guo Chisheng. If something went wrong this time, he would really kill himself. He was not worried about Ning Shi, but Jiang Mui was still sleeping when the shooting was about to start. He seemed to be in a bad state, which really worried him. Alas. Okay. All departments, get ready. Start. Ning Shi was discussing with her assistant Xiao Dao what to eat for lunch. The moment Guo Chisheng shouted, the look in her eyes changed. The battlefield was full of corpses, and there were less than 100 people left. Meng Chang'e was covered in blood. Her eyes were scarlet, and her face was full of murderous intent. She was like a walking weapon, ready to kill anything. Just as she was about to be ambushed from behind due to exhaustion, a thin man dressed in green suddenly rushed over and reminded her loudly. Chang'e, be careful. With the man's warning, Meng Chang'e narrowly dodged the sneak attack. But when he saw who it was, he instantly flew into a rage and grabbed the man's collar with his blood-stained hand. Damn it, who allowed you to come here? Get lost. Sun Huanqing's face was resolute. I'm not leaving. If we're going to die, let's die together. Meng Chang'e threw him away heavily, his face full of mockery and disdain. I told you to get lost, so get lost. You're just a pretty boy who doesn't even have the strength to truss a chicken. What right do you have to die with me? Sun Huanqing stood up, covered in dust. With a flick of his silver needle, he pierced a person's throat. Blood splattered all over his handsome and fair face. At this moment, his eyes did not have the compassion of a doctor, only murderous intent. And now? He asked, with a look of obstinate determination. Meng Chang'e turned his head away, his expression conflicted. At this moment, countless complex emotions flashed across Ning Shi's face. Finally, she sighed heavily. Forget it. If you want to come, then come, but don't expect me to be distracted to protect you. Jiang Mui stretched out his hand and slowly wiped away the blood on Ning Shi's face. His expression was gentle and affectionate. In this bloody battlefield full of gunpowder, he looked like a blooming white lotus. Chang'e, I am your man. I should protect you. Chapter 257. He passed it in one take. The audience burst into thunderous applause, and the reporters clapped with all their might. This scene had both action scenes and emotional scenes. It was very complicated. No one had expected to pass it in one take, so they were both surprised and delighted. Oh my God! Jiang Mui is so handsome. I thought his image would be ruined by playing a weak doctor. What a surprise! Yes. Jiang Mui's image has been subverted. I feel that his acting has improved tremendously this time. I don't care who the male lead is now. I just want to see Dr. Sun's scenes. Especially that last sentence, I'm your man. It's simply too heartfelt, isn't it? So affectionate. I think so too. In the past, when Jiang Mui said such sensational lines to the female lead, I always felt that something was missing. Now I know its feelings. Jiang Mui is acting with feelings this time. Guo Chisheng was so excited that he almost cried. He hugged the assistant director. So touch. I didn't expect it to be so smooth. The reaction of the reporters was also very good. It was a good start. In the resting area, Jiang Mui snorted proudly. What do you think? I told you there would be no problem. All of you only know how to worry for nothing. Ning Shi snorted disdainfully. That's because I'm the one acting with you. If it were someone else, you would be stuck at least 20 times. Do you believe it? Don't flatter yourself. If it were someone else, I would be stuck at most 19 times, Jiang Mui said carelessly. Of course, he was so carefree because he knew the other party was Ningxi. Did he think he was stupid? Ningxi's greatest ability was not only to keep the scene under control, but also to bring the other party into the scene and pass it in one take. TSK, Ning Xiaoxi, your skill is really perverted, you're the perverted one. While the two of them were making fun of each other, Lei Yiming and Lin Jiji came in. Lei Yiming was also very excited. He happily poured drinks and food for Jiang Mui. Not bad, Mui, you did a great job today. It was totally beyond my expectation. You have to keep it up. Seeing that Jiang Mui was praised, Ningxi was unhappy. She looked at Lin Jiji like a kid begging for candy. Sister Jiji, what about me? What about me? Although Lin Jiji was not as excited as Lei Yiming, she looked quite satisfied. Very good, but don't let your guard down. Your highlight is the next round. Got it. Ningxi was already very satisfied and happy to get the 3 words very good. Jiang Mui cast a sidelong glance at Lin Jiji, turned his head away, and whispered, I didn't expect that the tigress would become so gentle after a few years. I've never seen you so gentle to me before. At this moment, Lin Jiji finally looked at him and said expressionlessly, put yourself in my shoes. If you were me at that time, would you be gentle to yourself? Jiang Mui choked. Fuck. Was he really that much of a bastard back then? It seemed like he was quite a hoodlum, and he was still a hoodlum. Thinking about it carefully, if he were Lin Jiji, he would also want to beat himself up. At this time, all the reporters outside were anxious to interview Ningxi and Jiang Mui, but they were all stopped by the director, who said that there would be enough time for interviews after the shooting. Only then did everyone quiet down. Chapter 258. After a short break, the second scene began. Why was this scene the highlight of the show? Because it was the most torturous scene in the whole show, the climax of the whole show, and the turning point before Meng Chang'e entered the palace for revenge. This turning point was crucial, directly related to Meng Chang'e's character setting in the second half of the show and the audience's perception of Meng Chang'e. Due to the huge difference in strength between the two armies, Meng Chang'e still lost this battle. She watched as her assistant, who had risked his life for her, was beheaded and trampled on by the enemy. She watched as her beloved brother was beheaded and humiliated on the tip of a sword. She was separated from Sun Huanqing in the battle, and when she went to find him, she saw Sun Huanqing's heart being pierced by thousands of arrows. She didn't even have time to say goodbye. Huanqing, the last string in Meng Chang'e's heart, was completely broken. She was so angry that her eyes almost popped out of their sockets, and she rushed over. She sat on the ground, looking at the corpse in her arms that was full of sharp arrows, and let out a desperate scream. 2 streams of tears rolled down her blood-stained cheeks. Ningxi's instantaneous explosive power was shocking, and everyone present was brought into the scene, their hearts wrenching. The next second, Meng Chang'e raised her sword and madly fought with the remaining enemies. Because Meng Chang'e's momentum was too fierce, although there were many enemies, they also became timid. In the end, almost 100 people were killed by her one by one. Ningxi didn't use a martial arts substitute for this scene, but personally went into battle. Her emotions were on point, and her movements were very beautiful, showing a beautiful sense of heroism. The battle finally ended, and she was the only one left alive on the vast battlefield. The entire battlefield was covered in blood, layers of corpses, and tattered flags fluttered in the wind. Meng Chang'e was on the verge of collapse. He clutched his chest and knelt down on one knee, panting in exhaustion. After the great sorrow and anger, she slowly put her lover's head on her knees, and wiped the dirt off his face, her expression emotionless. Ningxi's silence during this period was for the purpose of interspersing the memories between the two of them in the subsequent editing. Ningxi's expression was layered so that even if there was no memory, this silence was not abrupt. Instead, the audience followed the subtle changes in her expression and recalled the bits and pieces since she met Sun Huanqing. A moment later, the memories came to an abrupt end. Meng Chang'e's empty eyes suddenly stared into the distance. That one glance seemed to have passed through the battlefield, through the snowy mountains and grasslands, through the vast desert, all the way to the flourishing capital city, and then leaped over the palace walls, to the hypocritical imperial court, to the luxurious imperial palace, to stare straight at the incapable emperor and the treacherous concubine in the tent. As if there was a gust of wind mixed with blood, she raised her chin and closed her eyes. Gradually, her blood-stained lips curled up bit by bit, like a peach blossom blooming in winter. Strange, yet beautiful. A smile that could topple a city. At this moment, the general who protected the country had died, and the one who was reborn was the demon concubine who brought disaster to the country and the people. The Meng family had been loyal for generations. Her father, 3 brothers, the youngest brother, the person she loved the most, all died on the battlefield. However, the emperor whom she was loyal to, the people whom she protected, forced her into a dead end step by step. This family, this country, this world, what else was worth protecting? In that case, let them all be destroyed. Chapter 259. Ning. She only needed to use a dark smile to fully express all of this deep and heavy grief and hatred that could not be dispelled. This time, the scene was dead silent. Until the end of the shooting, no one dared to make a sound. They even breathed loudly, for fear of disturbing the sorrowful and beautiful soul. Many people's eyes were red and they didn't even notice it. It wasn't until director Guo Chisheng signaled that the shooting was over that everyone suddenly came to their senses and recovered from their grief. Oh my God, I actually cried watching the scene. Sob, 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 sob. I cried too. My heart was so heavy and depressed. Dr. Sun. My Dr. Sun is dead. Ning Xi's acting skills are so awesome. Only now do I know that those highlights were just a drop in the bucket. And I finally understand why Guo Chisheng insisted on using her despite the objections of the public. Why isn't Ning Xi the female lead? Compared with Shangguan Yingrong, the female lead who talks about benevolence and morality, Meng Changa's character is much deeper. In the makeup room backstage, after removing her makeup, Ning Xi's face was still full of grief and killing intent. Even Xiao Dao, who wanted to bring her lunch, didn't dare to get too close to her. Just then, Jiang Mui pushed the door open and walked in. He said calmly, "Leave the lunch here. Don't mind her. She'll be done soon." Okay. Xiao Dao put down the lunchbox and ran away in a hurry, still in a state of shock. Ning Xi's appearance just now was really creepy, as if she had been possessed. About 5 minutes later, Ning Xi got rid of the possessed state and woke up. He stretched his back, cracked his neck, and grumbled, "Fuck. I was too immersed in the role this time and almost couldn't get out." Jiang Mui squinted at her with a dark face. "Be content, okay? Others can't get out for months if they want to act like you. Some even go crazy. You came out in less than an hour. What else do you want? Beast." Because he was in a dead state during the scene just now, he didn't know Ning Xi's performance. Just now, he specially went to watch the replay and was shocked. He felt that Ning Xi's love for him was as deep as the sea. "Hey, where's Sister Gigi? I haven't asked Gigi what she thinks of me," Ning Xi asked anxiously. As soon as she finished speaking, Lin Gigi pushed the door open and came in. She took a look at the time on her watch and said in a hurry, "Ning Xi, I'm going back to the company in the afternoon. Will you be okay by yourself?" "Ah, you're leaving." Ning Xi was a bit disappointed. "Because I'm no longer needed here," Lin Gigi said with a rare smile. Hearing this, Ning Xi's spirits were lifted on the spot. This was undoubtedly the greatest affirmation and trust for her. "Then hurry up and do what you need to do. I will take care of myself and be obedient." "Okay. Contact me anytime if you need anything." "Alright, I'll send you out." After Ning Xi saw Lin Gigi off, Jiang Mui looked at her with disdain. "Look at your flattering face." Ning Xi shot him a look of disdain. "Mph, you're just jealous that I'm close to Sister Gigi. Speaking of which, I should thank you. After experiencing a scumbag like you, Sister Gigi will cherish an obedient baby like me even more." Jiang Mui sneered and looked at her as if she was too naive and naive. "You can be complacent. You're going to suffer in the future. Do you think that woman is easy to deal with? Don't blame me for not reminding you when you're tortured to the point of crying for your parent." Chapter 260. The two dramas, which would have taken a whole day to finish, were finished in half a day because they were finished in one take. Therefore, there was plenty of time for the interview in the afternoon. Ning Shi and Jiang Mui were very cooperative. They basically answered all the questions. The reporters also didn't ask too many sensitive topics. Seeing that the atmosphere was very good, the reporters began to ask some personal questions after the interview about the drama. A reporter said, "Mui, there's a question that people seem to ask every time. This time, I also want to ask you. What kind of girls do you like? Do you like girls like Meng Chang'e in real life?" Jiang Mui thought for a while with his chin in his hand. "I used to like cute and helpless girls. Now that I'm older, I think girls like Meng Chang'e are brave and real." After asking Jiang Mui, the reporter turned to Ning Shi. "What about you, Ning Shi? What kind of men do you like in real life? Or, what are your criteria for choosing a spouse? Can I have a chat with everyone?" Ning Shi felt a headache because such a common question was very difficult for her. She didn't want to marry and had never thought about choosing a spouse. How could she have criteria? However, when the reporter asked this question, the figure that flashed across her mind was, Ning Shi shook her head and concentrated on answering the reporter's question. "My criteria for choosing a spouse should be someone of the same age as me, with similar interests and like-minded." Fortunately, she had prepared for this question, so she answered according to the lines that she had prepared. Well, this answer was not perfunctory, but also reasonable. There should be nothing wrong with it. However, at this time, a female reporter next to her said excitedly, "So, Mui has at least two criteria. First, Mui is of the same age as you. Third, you are both actors and must be like-minded. As for the second criterion, although I'm not sure whether you have the same interests and hobbies, since these two criteria are the same, it's very likely that you have the same interests and hobbies." The corner of Ning Shi's mouth twitched and she pushed it back. Haha, in fact, there are a lot of people who fit these criteria. Most importantly, it depends on fate. Jiang Mui, who was standing beside them, also changed the topic with a joke. He said deliberately, "Don't listen to her explanation. Her explanation is just a cover-up. In fact, she is using me as her senior brother's standard for choosing a spouse." Ning Shi said, "Senior, do your fans know that you're so narcissistic?" 2 hours later, the interview ended. Although the two shocking scenes that they saw today couldn't be published because they couldn't be spoilers, they could still post some short clips and highlights. Moreover, the interview went very smoothly and the content was also very rich. Ning Shi and Jiang Mui cooperated well with each other both in and out of the play. There was a lot of material that could be written and broadcast, so the reporters all returned with satisfaction. After the reporters left, Ning Shi stretched herself. "I'm so tired. Today's battle had finally come to an end. I'm going back to the hotel to sleep for a while." Jiang Mui glanced at her. "Hotel? Why are you staying in a hotel?" Ning Shi looked through the script and sighed. "You know how many scenes I have to play. There are many big night scenes. It's too exhausting to run back and forth, so I discussed with Sister Gigi and decided to stay with the crew during this period." Chapter 261. In the evening, at 8 Supreme Platinum Palace. Lu Tingxiao and Lu Jingli were the only two people at the big dining table. "Ah, Xiaobao is not here, and sister-in-law is not here. You are alone. Look at how considerate I am. I even specially ran to accompany you to eat." Lu Jingli sighed. He felt that the house was too deserted, so he ran to turn on the TV. Of course, it was the entertainment gossip channel. The TV was showing the press conference of Su Yimou's latest movie, Star Ocean. It was a grand scene with many stars. Su Yimou was wearing an ice blue wucha haute couture silk evening gown. She exuded an ethereal aura and was truly worthy of the title of national goddess. As the boss of Shengshe, Lu Jingli frowned. There are so many resources and so many scripts for her to choose from. What did she choose? She's a goddess. She's almost a goddess. Can't she have a breakthrough? Oh, by the way, many people in the company think that Su Yimou has that kind of relationship with you. Sister-in-law might have heard about it. Have you explained it to her? Don't make a big misunderstanding. Lu Tingxiao looked calm. Yes. Her. So efficient. Lu Jingli was wondering if this was what the phone call yesterday was about. Suddenly, the picture on the TV changed and Ningxi's face appeared. Wow. Sister-in-law. Quick, look. Lu Jingli immediately focused. Lu Tingxiao put down his chopsticks and looked at the TV screen with a serious expression. This morning, our frontline reporter came to visit the crew of Under the Heavens, which everyone has been paying close attention to recently. We filmed some interesting footage. After the introduction, the TV screen behind her switched to the big screen behind her. Ningxi was holding a long spear and wearing blood-stained armor. She was glaring at Jiang Mui in cyan. Don't expect me to be distracted to protect you. Jiang Mui smiled and reached out to wipe away the blood on Ningxi's face. His eyes were full of love and affection. Chang'e, I'm your man. I should protect you. Pu, cough, cough, cough. Lu Jingli didn't expect to see such an exciting scene. He hurried to comfort his brother. Brother, it's just an act. Don't take it seriously. Don't take it seriously. However, this was not the end. The scene quickly changed to another scene. Ningxi was holding Jiang Mui, whose body was full of sharp arrows. Her eyes were filled with despair as she lost her beloved. Lu Jingli stole a glance at his brother's secretive face and laughed dryly. Ah, sister-in-law's acting is really good. Your acting skills are really good. However, the TV seemed to have a grudge against him. As soon as he said this, it began to play a clip of the reporter's interview with Ningxi. What about Ningxi? What kind of man do you like in real life? In other words, what are your criteria for choosing a spouse? Can I have a chat with everyone? My criteria for choosing a partner should be someone of similar age to me, who shares my interests, and who shares the same ideals. Lu Jingli silently counted on his fingers. Their ages were similar. His older brother, Ningxi, was 8 years old. There was a gap of nearly 3 generations. How could they be considered similar in age? Their interests were similar, but they were worlds apart. They were like-minded. The biggest reason why Ningxi had refused his brother was that they had different goals. On the other hand, Jiang Mui met all 3 of Ningxi's criteria. Chapter 262. At this moment, Lu Tingxiao was thinking about carrots. He remembered what Ningxi had told him the other day. Everyone has their own preferences. Those who like carrots will never like carrots no matter how perfect they are. At that time, he was confident that Ningxi had feelings for him. He thought it was just an excuse, so he didn't think too much about it. But now, he had to face it. Maybe he really was a carrot, not a carrot. Lu Jingli felt a chill down his spine when he saw his brother staring coldly at the carrots in front of him. Brother, are you okay? Why was he staring at the carrots with such a murderous look? Then Lu Tingxiao rang the bell for the butler expressionlessly. He asked him to remove the carrots and told him not to put them on the table again. Lu Jingli was speechless. Even if he was smart, he couldn't understand a man who was in love. At the same time, at the Junlai Hotel in the film city, Ningxi was about to go to bed after putting on a facial mask. Someone rang the doorbell. Ningxi was surprised to see the person outside. Jiang Mui, why are you here? I'm with the crew. I'm staying upstairs. Ningxi was speechless. I have too many scenes, so I have no choice. Why are you here? Can't I play more games to save time? Jiang Mui said matter-of-factly. Okay. You win. Ningxi gave him a thumbs up and asked, so, why aren't you playing your game? Why are you here? Speaking of this, Jiang Mui's face turned gloomy. Fight my ass. The internet is so slow. I lost 5 games in a row and lost my ranking. Come on, let's go to the internet cafe. Hurry up Ningxi held her forehead. What game? I'm going to sleep. It's only 9 o'clock. Why are you sleeping? Are you going or not? Who was the one who risked his life to accompany you at 3 o'clock in the morning? It's only 9 o'clock and I can't even wake you up. Ha ha ha. Jiang Mui sneered, looking at her as if she was a heartless person. Sure enough, She would pay for what she had done. Ning, she said helplessly, okay. I'll go, okay? Let me change my clothes. 10 minutes later, the two of them changed into inconspicuous clothes and entered the internet cafe with masks on. Because this was the film city, celebrities often came to the internet cafe. Therefore, the boss was not surprised to see the two of them wearing masks in the middle of the night. He did not carefully compare their IDs and directly let them in. There were no more private rooms, so the two of them found a booth and sat down. Then, they turned on the computer. Ning, she hadn't logged into the game for a long time and had forgotten her password. Golden fur, what's my password? Jiang Mui rolled his eyes at her speechlessly. Then he walked over and directly entered a series of passwords for her. Thanks. Ning, she pressed the enter key and logged in. As soon as she logged into the game, system notifications kept popping up. Ning, she's face lit up when she saw those pop-up windows. Fuck. Tycoon. Why did you give me so much skin? And all of them are limited edition. Jiang Mui was furious. Bastard, how could you not see the birthday present I gave you? How many days had it been? Haven't you logged in before? No wonder he forgot the password. Ning, she knew she was in the wrong. She scratched her head guiltily. I was busy. Jiang Mui's face was cold. It's all excuses. You just don't care. Chapter 263. I'm sorry. You know I'm forgetful. Thank you for the gift. I love it. I'll play with you all night, okay? Play with me all night. You said it. I said it. I'll help you get back all the ranks you lost. Go. Ning, she risked her life to play with Jiang Mui for a whole night. Jiang Mui, who hadn't had a good time since he came back to China, finally had a good time. He won 10 games in a row in one night. He hadn't felt this good for a long time. Ning, she hadn't had a good time for a long time. She yawned and said, fortunately, we didn't have many scenes in the morning. We can catch up on sleep. Just when they went back to their room and fell asleep, they didn't know that there was a commotion outside. In the end, they were woken up by their agents and called to Lei Ming's room. Isn't there an hour before work starts? Why are you disturbing my sleep so early in the morning? Jiang Mui's hair was like a bird's nest and his eyes were sleepy. Ning, she was not much better. She almost fell asleep again as soon as her butt touched the chair. Lin Jiji crossed her arms and paced back and forth in the room. Then she looked at them and asked in a serious tone, what did you do last night? Nothing much. They were keenly aware that there was something wrong with her tone, so they shook their heads tacitly and said in unison. Lei Ming seemed to have expected this. He sighed helplessly and handed his cell phone to them. What is this? Explain it to me. Ning, she rubbed her eyes. Isn't this last night? Wasn't this a picture of her playing games with Jiang Mui last night? Jiang Mui suddenly sobered up. Damn. This is just a back view. How could they recognize me when I'm wrapped up like this? Therefore, Lei Ming turned to the next picture. This was not a back view, but a clear frontal view. Although Ning, she was wearing a mask, Jiang Mui's face was not. His whole face was clearly exposed. Jiang Mui scratched his head. I was too excited for a while and took off my mask. But I only took it off for less than 10 seconds. Ning, she blinked. Then I didn't expose myself, did I? Lin Jiji poked her earlobe. Your mole. The person in the photo looks like you, and this mole is too iconic. It's hard not to think of you. Ning, she said, who is that? He has sharp eyes. Without Lu Tingxiao's reminder, she would have forgotten about this small detail. Jiang Mui's face was gloomy. When we went there, we used the staff's ID card. We didn't use our own. Who was so bored as to take these photos and post them on the internet? You even noticed a small mole like Ningxi? Lei Ming spread his hands and said, he's probably a fan of you, a fan of your CP. Ningxi widened her eyes. What the hell is a couple fan? He and I have a couple fan. At this moment, Lin Jiji looked very serious. Ningxi, I think you should remember that since the first day you came to the company, I've told you that you can't fall in love in your current situation. She had been careless this time. She should have noticed that the way Ningxi and Jiang Mui got along with each other, including their tacit understanding when they were acting and facing reporters, and the fact that they played games together late at night, were definitely not new acquaintances. Especially the way Jiang Mui looked at Ningxi was very unusual. Chapter 264. No, absolutely not. Sister Gigi, you misunderstood me. We're not in love. Ningxi hurriedly waved her hand to deny it. Then she glared at Jiang Mui. Asshole, can you tell Lin Gigi about our relationship? Jiang Mui didn't speak but gave her a casual look. Lin Gigi was Ningxi's agent. It was up to Ningxi to decide whether to tell her or not. Ningxi thought for a moment and had to tell the truth. Sister Gigi, it's like this. Senior brother Jiang and I met when we were studying abroad. At that time, we dated for a period of time, but it was like playing house. We broke up after a few days. Now we're just good friends. I know I should have told you about such an important thing in advance, but I misunderstood you as Jiang Mui's ex-girlfriend. I was afraid that it would make everyone feel awkward, so I didn't tell you. Lin Gigi was stunned and said in surprise, I'm Jiang Mui's ex-girlfriend? Who told you that? Then her eyes fell on Jiang Mui. Jiang Mui's face darkened. Why are you looking at me? I didn't tell you. She guessed it herself. Ningxi rolled her eyes at him. It's because you're behaving too strangely. Can you blame me for thinking too much? Seeing that they were about to quarrel again, Lin Gigi pinched between her eyebrows and sighed. Ningxi, Jiang Mui, and I are just an artiste and an ex-agent. You don't have to worry about it. As soon as she finished speaking, an imperceptible cold light flashed across Jiang Mui's eyes. Well, I know now. Since Lin Gigi said it herself, Ningxi naturally believed her. So, let's talk about how to deal with this matter. After explaining the misunderstanding, Lin Gigi began to talk about business. Jiang Mui's fans didn't like you before, but that was because they were misled. Now their attitude has changed a lot, and there are even many fans of you on the internet. So, I discussed it with Brother Ming. When the time comes, you can be more ambiguous in your statements or questions from the reporters. You don't have to deny it too thoroughly. Just say that both of you are in the same company, have compatible personalities, admire each other, and are currently very good friends. Leave some room for ambiguous imagination. Ningxi nodded obediently. Oh, okay. I'll listen to Sister Gigi. Jiang Mui held his chin and said lazily, I have no objection. Can I go back to sleep now? Ningxi slapped him. Fill up my ass. Wake up. We're about to start work. Jiang Mui scratched his head impatiently. Which scene are we going to shoot this afternoon? Ningxi glared at him. Kiss scene. Don't tell me that you haven't seen the script since it was revised. If I were Brother Ming, I would beat you 800 times a day. Anyway, Lin Gigi already knew their relationship, so Ningxi didn't have to pretend to be respectful to Jiang Mui anymore. Hearing that, Jiang Mui said sarcastically, Humph. The higher-ups told the scriptwriter to delete all the kissing scenes and bed scenes on the grounds that there were too many underage audiences. How could there be any kissing scenes? They're almost all deleted, but didn't they leave some behind? One is the first kiss scene and the other is the bed scene in the military camp. The kissing scene is the one that was forced to stop because of the hailstorm. The director said that the first scene can be used, and we just need to reshoot the kissing scene later. Oh, I see. Jiang Mui murmured. Why did his eyebrows keep twitching? He had an inexplicable ominous premonition. Chapter 265. Lu Group, CEO's Office. Lu Tingxiao made an internal call to Lu Jingli to come over. Lu Jingli quickly ran over. Brother, you called for me? Have you prepared the materials for the meeting? Yes, here you are. Well, inform all the departments to have a meeting in half an hour. Oh, okay. Lu Jingli didn't leave immediately. He looked a little absent-minded. Lu Tingxiao raised his head and looked at him. What's wrong? Lu Jingli almost jumped up in fright. Nothing. Lu Tingxiao put down the pen in his hand and looked at him with penetrating eyes. Lu Jingli was like a soldier undergoing inspection. He stood ramrod straight and tried his best to remain calm. In fact, his guilty conscience was obvious at a glance. 5 seconds later, Lu Tingxiao finally looked away. Just when Lu Jingli finally breathed a sigh of relief, he saw Lu Tingxiao quickly typing on the computer keyboard and then pressing the enter key. Lu Jingli clearly saw that the letters Lu Tingxiao had pressed were NGXI. Oh no! His brother went to search for it himself. My brother. Why are you so quick-witted? After Lu Tingxiao searched for the keywords, the latest and hot news about Ningxi popped up on the internet in an instant. Jiang Mui and Ningxi play games late at night, acting intimately, suspected to be in love with each other, similar age, similar hobbies, like-minded. Jiangning's speed dating index is 100%. Both sides respond that they are just good friends. Fans cheer. Jiangning is named the fastest couple of the year. It was obvious that Lu Tingxiao had seen everything he shouldn't have seen. Lu Jingli closed his eyes and didn't dare to look at his brother's expression. Lu Tingxiao turned off the computer, pulled out a chair and put on his coat. Jingli, prepare the car. Ah! What about the meeting? Postpone it until tomorrow. Then where are you going now? Lu Jingli swallowed his saliva and followed behind her. Inspection. Inspection? Could it be? At the same time, in the film city in the suburbs of Beijing. Because the scene of the first kiss at the Lantern Festival required a lot of manpower and money, they had tried their best to make it perfect. Ningxi and Jiang Mui also performed very well, so the director decided to only shoot the second half of the scene to save money and time. In order for the actors to be in a better state, he deliberately sent away all the irrelevant personnel. Finally, everything was ready. Just as Guo Qixing was about to announce the start of filming, producer Wang Taihe suddenly rushed over and pulled Guo Qixing to assistant director Zhong Rui. Guo Qixing was surprised. The boss of Golden Age is here. Why so sudden? But it doesn't matter. Mu Yi and Ningxi's acting skills are fine. If he wants to come, let him come. Wang Taihe slapped his thigh anxiously. Oh my great director, I wouldn't be so nervous if it was only the second young master. It was the big boss. The master of Lu Group. Guo Qixing was dumbfounded. Who? Don't tell me you mean Lu. Lu Tingxiao? That's right. Laro Guo, come with me to welcome them. Zhong Rui, hurry up and explain to the staff and the two actors. Quick. Got it, I'll go right away. Everything was ready but the shooting still hadn't started. Guo Qixing and Wang Taihe suddenly disappeared. Seeing Zhong Rui running over, Ningxi immediately asked suspiciously, "What's wrong, assistant director?" Chapter 266. Who's coming? Jiang Mui couldn't help looking at Zhong Rui. His eyebrows were pounding. Zhong Rui explained to them in a hurry. The president of Lu Group, Lu Tingxiao, is coming for an inspection. The director is already there to welcome him. I don't think I need to tell you the importance of this scene, right? So you have to do your best today, understand? Ningxi was stunned. Lu Tingxiao? Vice director, did you make a mistake? It should be Lu Jingli, right? Yes. Lu Jingli is coming too. Go and get ready, Zhong Rui said and hurried off to tell the other staff. Ningxi picked her ears. Golden Retriever, did I hear it wrong? Vice Director said Lu Tingxiao was coming? You didn't hear it wrong. I heard it too. Jiang Mui said with a gloomy face. Damn. No wonder he had a bad feeling about this. So they were waiting for him here. Zhong Rui hurriedly cleared the place and dismissed all the non-essential staff. Then he quickly prepared chairs, drinks, and umbrellas. Soon, the people from the other side arrived. At the front was Lu Tingxiao, who was dressed in a suit and leather shoes. Lu Jingli followed behind him, looking left and right. The two of them were surrounded by the core members of the directing team. Wang Taihe was talking non-stop about the planning and progress of the production team. Guo Qixing warmly invited them to the best viewing spot. Boss Lu, second young master, please take a seat. You made the right choice to come today. Today's scene is wonderful. Really? What's the scene today? Lu Jingli threw a grape into his mouth and asked with interest. Guo Chisheng talked non-stop about the plot for a long time. After the script was changed, there was only this kiss scene left. We are trying to achieve the most beautiful effect. Lu Jingli wiped his face. Damn. It's actually a kiss scene, and it seems to be the one on the day of the artificial rain. What luck. He didn't want to say anything else. Lu Tingxiao was expressionless from beginning to end. He was just sitting there, but he gave off a feeling that there was no one around him. It was as if he didn't pay any attention to anyone else. Guo Chisheng was a little embarrassed. Fortunately, he had heard about this man's temper, so he didn't take it seriously. Both Ningxi and Mu Yi's acting skills are very good, and the most rare thing is that they cooperate well with each other. The two of them basically finished their scenes in one take. Guo Chisheng thought to himself, it's not wrong for me to praise their company's artists, right? Lu Tingxiao sat on the chair and casually took a cup of tea from Lu Jingli. His voice was cold and distant as he said, "Is that so?" Yes. I don't know if you've seen the highlights on the internet, but yesterday's 2 scenes were so difficult, but they were all done in one take." Guo Chisheng felt a chill down his spine as he spoke. Lu Jingli coughed lightly and stopped the topic in time. All right, let's begin. Okay, let's start now." Guo Chisheng went to prepare as if he had been granted amnesty. Lighting, props, cameras, all departments, get ready. Actors, get ready. The staff immediately got ready one by one, afraid that something would go wrong. The fucking big boss is coming to inspect in person. Lu Tingxiao was so busy that he didn't have time to manage the company's affairs, let alone inspect in person. This was unprecedented. He felt that he could brag about this in his WeChat moments for a long time. Chapter 267. When the scene was ready, the 2 leading actors walked over from the rest area. When Ningxi, who was wearing a handsome red and black outfit, appeared, Guo Chisheng didn't know if it was his own illusion, but Lu Tingxiao's empty eyes seemed to focus in an instant. Ningxi glanced at Lu Jingli and Lu Tingxiao from afar. Lu Jingli immediately winked at her and pointed to his cell phone, implying that his brother knew everything. Ningxi's gaze slowly shifted to Lu Tingxiao. The latter's gaze was locked onto her aggressively, like the eyes of a wild beast before the dry season. Hearing the clear sound of the script clerk hitting the board, Ningxi suddenly came to her senses and hurriedly adjusted her mind to enter the play. Meng Chang'e quarreled with Sun Huanqing and ran away angrily. It was getting darker and darker, and Sun Huanqing was getting more and more anxious. In fact, Meng Chang'e had already found Sun Huanqing, but she didn't show up. Instead, she naughtily followed Sun Huanqing. Seeing that he was so anxious for her, her tough face showed a rare look of a little girl. Ningxi played the innocent and shy look of a young girl in love very well. Finally, Meng Chang'e didn't want her Dr. Sun to be so anxious. Just when Sun Huanqing was about to collapse, she suddenly jumped behind him and patted him on the shoulder. She said in a proud and happy tone, "Dr. Sun, are you looking for me?" Jiang Mui was stunned at first, and then his face was full of ecstasy. He excitedly held her in his arms. Chang'e, Lu Jingli's first reaction was not to continue watching the play, but to look at his brother. Then he was so scared that he peed himself. He hurriedly pulled his brother's fingers. Brother, be gentle. This cup is glass, not steel or titanium alloy. Remember, this is a play, just a play." But before he could even finish his words, crack! The teacup cracked open slightly. Lu Jingli looked up and saw Ningxi slowly taking off the mask on her face. Her eyes were full of love as she looked at Jiang Mui. Then, she leaned over and slowly approached his lips. It's over. I didn't prepare anything this time." Lu Jingli covered his eyes with his hands, but he couldn't help peeping through the gap. 1 second passed, 2 seconds passed, 3 seconds passed, 4 seconds passed. What was going on? 5 seconds later, Ningxi suddenly put her hand on her forehead and said, "Sorry, I'm not in the right state. Let's do it again." Ningxi actually NG. All the staff, the 2 directors, and the producer were shocked. However, they could understand it. As expected, the boss aura was too strong. Even the spectators were under great pressure, let alone Ningxi. It's okay. Let's adjust our condition and try again, Guo Qisheng comforted. Xiao Dao hurriedly went up to Ningxi and handed her a bottle of mineral water. Come on, sister Shi. Ningxi gulped down the whole bottle. Jiang Mui squinted at her and said, I didn't expect you to have stage fright. Ningxi said with a terrible expression, don't be sarcastic. It's not like you don't know how scary your uncle is. If you were to be stared at like that, let's see if you can still perform normally. Chapter 268. Soon, the second shoot began. Meng Chang'e patted his shoulder. Dr. Sun, are you looking for me? Sun Huanqing turned around and hugged him. Chang'e, Guo Qisheng said, cut. Ningxi, watch your expression. Why are you distracted? Ningxi said, sorry. The third shoot began. Meng Chang'e said, Dr. Sun, are you looking for me? Sun Huanqing said, Chang'e, Guo Qisheng said, cut. Ningxi, you stared at him for too long. You have to kiss him after 3 seconds, understand? Ningxi said, okay. The fourth shoot, Guo Qisheng said, Ningxi, your expression is too stiff. What are you looking at? The fifth shoot, the sixth shoot, in the end, Ningxi made 6 ings in a row. Even Jiang Mui was about to break down. He paced back and forth in the lounge. Damn. I'm going to have a heart attack. Are you going to kiss him or not? Hurry up, okay? Ningxi grabbed her hair. Fuck. I'm going to have a heart attack. Can't you let your uncle go back? His eyes are like X-rays. Who the hell can kiss him? Jiang Mui sneered. He came for you. What can I do to make him go back? Ningxi threw away the wig on her head. Damn it. I'm so fucked up. Ahem. Hey, watch your image. Seeing that Ningxi was about to lose control, Jiang Mui reminded her speechlessly. He could tell that Ningxi was really under a lot of pressure. He had never seen her in such an agitated state. From another perspective, it could also be said that Lu Tingxiao's influence on her was huge. It was much bigger than what he had imagined. At least no one had ever been able to disturb her acting. At this time, Guo Qisheng ran into the lounge with sweat all over his head. He walked up to Ningxi and said earnestly, Ningxi, what's wrong with you today? Are you too nervous because Lu Tingxiao is here? Calm down, you can't panic now. Ningxi lowered her head apologetically. I'm sorry, director. I'm making things difficult for you. Hey, it's okay. Every actor has a bad NG. Who knew the big boss would come today? We weren't prepared at all. Let alone you, who wouldn't be nervous at the scene? They were afraid that something might go wrong. Do you want to call your manager over? Guo Qisheng suggested. Ningxi shook her head. No, don't bother Sister Gigi. I can do it. Please get ready. Are you sure? I'm sure. 3 minutes later, the 7th take began. Ningxi walked in front of the camera, gritted her teeth, and glared at Lu Tingxiao. The latter gently stirred the tea leaves with the lid of the cup, looking relaxed and satisfied. This bastard definitely did it on purpose. It was even more lethal than hailstones. It was a godly NG tool. Chang'e. Jiang Mui hugged Ningxi. Actually, he was also under a lot of pressure, okay? Every time he hugged Ningxi, he felt like his back was pierced by thousands of arrows. Ningxi took off the mask on her face and stared at the man affectionately for 3 seconds. Then she slowly moved closer to him. Up until now, everything had gone smoothly. However, just as she was about to succeed, the disturbing gaze behind her once again forced her out of character, causing her to be unable to kiss him no matter what. Damn it! Ningxi's eyes flashed. Suddenly, to everyone's surprise, she put on the mask again. In the next second, she suddenly covered Jiang Mui's lips with the mask on. Chapter 269. Under the covered bridge, the lanterns were shining brightly, and the breeze was blowing. The girl was kissing the young man with a mask on her face. This scene was even more beautiful and exciting than a direct kiss. Cut. Pass. Guo Qisheng reacted in time and stopped her. Not bad, not bad. Ningxi, Your way of dealing with it is even better, Guo Chisheng praised, and the other staff all nodded in agreement. As long as you are satisfied, Director. Ning Shi forced a smile. Damn it. It was just a sweet kissing scene, not a heart-wrenching one. How could she be so exhausted? Damn it. The next second, her eyes involuntarily drifted in a certain direction. Opposite her, the producer was talking to Lu Tingxiao. Lu Tingxiao sat there quietly, like a dark oil painting in a dark corner of an old castle. No one knew how many years he had been isolated from the world. He was gloomy and cold, and his eyes were filled with heart-wrenching loneliness. Ning Shi was burned by his gaze and hurriedly turned away. Sister Shi, where are you going? To the bathroom. Ning Shi held her mobile phone and quickly sent Lu Jingli a WeChat message while walking. Second young master, what on earth does your brother want to do? Lu Jingli quickly replied to her. How would I know? Last night, he felt something was wrong when he saw the TV and your interview. This morning, he saw the gossip of you two playing games all night, so he directly cancelled the meeting and came to inspect. Did he tell you what he wanted to do or what plan he had? Ning Shi asked hurriedly. After all, knowing oneself and knowing the enemy was the key to victory. You know my brother's temper. How could he tell me such things? Then, is there anything wrong with him? Think carefully. Something is wrong, there seems to be something. Last night, after watching TV, he suddenly stared at a plate of shredded carrots coldly. Later, he told the housekeeper not to serve this dish anymore. Don't you think it's strange? Even I, a smart person, can't figure out what his strange behavior means. Ning Shi immediately thought of the words pulling out carrots. It seemed that Lu Tingxiao had completely misunderstood her relationship with Jiang Mui. Ning Shi thought for a moment and typed another line of words. How is your brother now? He should be fine, right? She had been forced to use all her intelligence to come up with the idea of kissing through the mask. What's so good about that? The moment you kissed me, I felt like I was in a 10,000-year-old ice cave 100,000 meters below the Arctic Circle. Did you make it? Oh yes, little 1111, where are you? Be careful. My brother isn't in my sight at the moment, and I don't know where he went. I guess he's going to catch you. Be careful. The moment Ning Shi read the last word sent by Lu Jingli, a shadow suddenly fell over her head. Then, an oppressive pressure covered the sky and covered the earth. In the next second, she felt a grip around her waist, and in a moment of dizziness, she was pushed into the washroom at the side. With a loud bang, her back slammed heavily against the door. Before she could cry out in pain, her voice was swallowed up by the scorching and crazy aura. At that moment, there was only one thought left in Ning Shi's muddled mind due to the lack of oxygen. Fuck. Lu Jingli, you bastard. You did it on purpose, didn't you? Why didn't you just tell me the main point and remind me earlier? Chapter 270. In her eyes, Lu Tingxiao had always been a gentleman, strict, restrained, and polite. However, this aggressive and destructive kiss had subverted all her previous knowledge. His waist was in so much pain that it felt like it was about to snap. The taste of blood lingered in his mouth, and the root of his tongue was almost numb from being pulled. He felt like he was going to be swallowed alive. Lu. Once she showed any signs of resistance, the other party's suppression became even more severe. He was like an arbitrary tyrant. The sudden pain in her neck made her frown. The man in front of her had completely lost his mind like a beast that had seen blood. He was so unfamiliar that it made her flustered. Ning Shi secretly pulled out the wooden hairpin on her head with one hand and quickly pointed the sharp end at the man's defenseless neck. Lu Tingxiao, if you don't calm down, don't blame me for helping you calm down. Lu Tingxiao's kiss stopped at her collarbone, but it was only for a moment. Then, as if he was provoking her, he kissed her lips again fearlessly. There was no sign of him stopping. Ning Shi felt a deep sense of helplessness in her heart. Does this guy have the ability to read minds? He knew that she couldn't hurt him, and he knew that she couldn't bear to let him go. She suddenly thought of a story she had read before. The man that a girl loved was cursed and turned into a beast, but even so, the girl didn't leave him. In order to prevent him from hurting the people in the village and being hunted down, she secretly raised him with her own flesh and blood, At that time, after reading the story, she felt that the girl was simply an idiot. But now, she had become that idiot. Lu Tingxiao's kiss lingered on her sensitive earlobe. Ning, she finally got a chance to speak. She hurriedly said, "Lu Tingxiao, have you forgotten what you promised me? Or are you going to go back on your word?" Hearing her voice, the man seemed to have finally come to his senses. After a short pause, he answered in a hoarse voice, "Inspection." Ning, she was so angry that she almost laughed. Inspection? Who inspects like this? If you sit there, who can act properly without being disturbed? Professional, the man said again. Do you mean that I'm not professional? Fine. I really wasn't very professional today, but next time, I definitely won't be able to do it again. Also, if that was an inspection, then what are you doing now? Ning, she asked word by word. Lu Tingxiao held her tightly in his arms like a child who had just snatched his favorite toy from someone else, not saying a word. At this moment, Ningxi's heart was in a mess. All the dark emotions that she had deliberately suppressed in her mind surged up at this moment, forcing her to face them and make a decision. After an unknown period of time, just as she was about to drown in the man's warm embrace, she finally came to her senses. She took a deep breath and said, "Lu Tingxiao, you gave me 7 days. There's no need to wait for 7 days. I can tell you now. I don't want to hear it." Lu Tingxiao's expression tightened, and he immediately went to kiss her again, trying to stop what she was going to say next. A trace of helplessness flashed across Ningxi's face. She turned her head to avoid his lips. "Lu Tingxiao, listen to me." Afraid that she would hesitate, Ningxi closed her eyes, looked at him, and said in one breath. Chapter 271. Lu Tingxiao, I've told you from the start that I already have someone I like. Thank you very much. I like him very much. Although I can't be with him for some reason, he will always be in my heart. No one can replace him. There is no extra space. No matter how good and perfect that person is, he can't be with me. Do you understand? Hearing Ningxi's words, Lu Tingxiao's back stiffened. His eyes were full of ice and snow. He pinched her chin with his fingers. Liar. Ningxi, you're lying. Ningxi raised 2 fingers and looked at him with clear eyes. Then I swear, if I lie, I will never be famous. I will be struck by lightning, and I will be hit by a car when I go out. Shut up. Lu Tingxiao couldn't bear it anymore. He pushed the door open and rushed out. Hearing the footsteps of the man leaving, Ningxi almost collapsed. That's right, Ningxi, you did nothing wrong. You should have done this earlier. You were greedy for too long. You couldn't give up for too long. When Ningxi finally recovered and walked out, she was surprised to see a man standing quietly against the wall with a burnt cigarette in his hand. She didn't know how long he had been there. Jiang Mui. Ningxi was stunned. Jiang Mui exhaled a long smoke ring and chuckled. Just now, you said that the person you like very, very, very much, is irreplaceable, no matter how good others are. That person is Lu Tingxiao, right? It's rare for someone as smart as Lu Tingxiao to make such a stupid mistake. Ningxi remained silent and did not speak. Jiang Mui tilted his head and looked at Ningxi quietly. You rejected him, but you seem to be in a worse state. He had not seen her like this for a long time. The only time he saw her like this was on someone's death anniversary. At that time, she was in a similar state as she was now. Her whole body seemed to be wrapped in a dark swamp, and there was no light or vitality around her. Jiang Mui suddenly didn't know what to say. He lit another cigarette impatiently. When he heard Ningxi rejected Lu Tingxiao, he didn't feel happy at all. Instead, he felt sad. He knew that Ningxi had completely fallen in love with Lu Tingxiao. However, even Lu Tingxiao didn't succeed. Who was he? A coward who didn't even dare to say like. Jiang Mui sighed and finally said the words that had been lingering in his heart for a long time. Ningxi, in fact, you don't have to do this. If you really like him, then let's be together. As soon as he finished speaking, he felt a sense of relief. Ningxi forced a smile. Jiang Mui, you were the one who opposed it the most, weren't you? Jiang Mui raised his eyebrows and said in a relaxed tone, I object to it because I don't want you to be my aunt, but you are my best friend after all. I hope you can be happy. With that, he looked at her seriously. Ningxi, I didn't believe that Lu Tingxiao was sincere before, but now, as long as he really likes you, he won't care about your identity, status, or profession, and he can protect you from being wrong. Ningxi's face gradually darkened. Jiang Mui, you don't have to say any more. How good would it be if it was just status and occupation? Whether it was identity, status, or occupation, as long as she was alive, she could change it. But what about what had happened in the past? How was she going to change? How was she going to change the fact that she was raped and gave birth to a bastard 5 years ago? Don't be afraid. I won't torture you. I promise I won't torture you. This is a necessary process. Ningxi must pass this hurdle. The devil will know Ningxi's feelings. Don't forget that there is a recording. Chapter 272. After Lu Tingxiao returned from the set, Lu Jingli knew that it was all over. The sky was going to fall. His brother was even scarier than when he had just taken over the company. At that time, his father had suddenly fallen seriously ill and was on the verge of death several times. All the branches of the family were eyeing the position of the successor, and some even tried to drive a wedge between the two brothers. The entire family was in a bloody mess. At that time, Lu Tingxiao was like an emotionless god of death. He was swift and decisive, and his methods were extremely harsh. He single-handedly put down the internal strife that almost toppled the entire Lu family. Now, Lu Tingxiao was like a beast that had been awakened from a deep sleep. His entire body was shrouded in a layer of dangerous murderous aura. Lu Jingli wanted to comfort him, but Lu Tingxiao had chased away all the servants in the house and locked himself in the villa alone. He had set the highest level of clearance so that no one could enter the villa except him. Lu Jingli was afraid that something would happen to him. He was even afraid that he would blow up the house, so he kept pacing outside the door worriedly. He waited for an entire night. Lu Tingxiao still didn't come out. Furthermore, an even worse situation occurred. Early in the morning, Old Master Lu personally called him and asked him to go back to the old mansion immediately. He sounded very displeased. The Lu family's old residence. In the living room, Old Master Lu and Old Madam Lu were both sitting on the sofa. Their expressions were extremely ugly. The alarm in Lu Jingli's head was beeping happily. He reacted almost immediately to what might have happened. Sure enough, the next second, Old Master Lu threw a thick stack of documents at him. You bastard, explain to me what is going on. White A4 papers and photos were scattered on the floor. Lu Jingli glanced at them. They were all photos and information about Ningxi. Sure enough, Ningxi's identity had been exposed. Sigh, why did it have to be at this time? When it rains, it pours. Old Madam Lu stared at her youngest son with a pained and angry expression. Jingli, you really disappoint me. You can do whatever you want with other things, but this is your brother's marriage. How can you be so reckless and help your brother hide it from us? I thought it was some rich girl from a wealthy family. She's actually a lowly actress. His private life was also extremely chaotic. How can such a person be the daughter-in-law of the Lu family? How can she be the mother of my grandson? Old Master Lu slammed the table heavily. When he thought about how he had left Xiaobao in the care of this kind of person for the past few days, he broke out in a cold sweat and felt a lingering fear. What kind of aphrodisiac did that woman feed your brother? She can actually make someone as arrogant as Tingxiao fall for someone like her. Fortunately, we discovered it early. Otherwise, were you going to wait for the rice to be cooked before telling us? This is ridiculous. The two old men talked for half an hour, one after the other. Lu Jingli tried to explain at first, but he didn't say anything in the end. He sat leisurely on the sofa opposite him and counted the tea leaves in his cup in boredom. Old Madam Lu glared at her. Brat, are you listening to us or not? Lu Jingli put down his teacup and blinked. Hey, are the two of you finished? Now, can you let your little son, who has been scolded badly, say a few words? Old Master Lu snorted coldly. All right, speak. I want to see what else you can say. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.